President Biden moved up the timeline last night for vaccine allocation by ordering all states, tribes, and territories to make all adults eligible for the vaccine by May 1st. That, he said, could allow for smaller gatherings by the 4th of July. But it means that vaccine distribution will have to ramp up even further. Mr. Biden also vowed this morning to expand vaccine supply globally during an unprecedented meeting of world leaders. William Brangham and Nick Schifrin are here now to break it down. So hello to both of you. And William, I'm going to begin with you. Give us a sense of where we are with vaccine distribution now in the United States, a sense of the progress that's been made.
Judy, we're at about 81, 82 million shots that have been administered so far. And if you remember, the president promised 100 million shots within his first 100 days. It looks like he's certainly going to hit that deadline. And as you mentioned last night, as we all heard, he said that eligibility for all adults should be opened up by May 1st. And this comes from the administration's confidence that we are suddenly going to have a large supply of vaccines in our hands. And then the issue, of course, as we have seen thus far, is how do we get those out of vials and into people's arms? And we are still struggling, although the pace is getting better. We are still struggling with this issue of getting people their appointments. We've seen lots of confusion with websites and registrations, and there's been still sort of gum in the works, but the pace is definitely picking up.
Tell us, William, what has the administration been doing to try to speed things up?
Well, there's a lot of money in the COVID relief bill that was just signed into law, and that bill is going to allow a bunch of new things. Today, the COVID administration task force announced that vaccines will be going to close to more than 700 more community health centers. Vaccines will also be made available at another 20,000 pharmacies. The administration said they'd also double the number of federally run mass vaccine centers. This is everything from these big stadiums to drive-through shots to more mobile clinics that travel around the country. And they're also going to expand the pool of vaccinators, the people who are eligible to actually administer these shots. And the president promised a new website last night, too, to help coordinate some of these sort of confusing Byzantine process that people have been navigating. The question then comes, of course, if we stay at our current pace, when does the country reach herd immunity? When do enough people have vaccines that we really feel confident that this pandemic is getting behind us? And at the current pace of about 2 million doses being administered every day, again, there's lots of caveats to this, but we could be close to 75, 80% of the population being vaccinated by mid to late summer. Again, lots of caveats. There's other things that could interrupt that process. But mid to late summer, we could achieve something close to herd immunity. The hope is then that if we get to that point, that many other nations around the world would hope that the U.S. would start sharing its supply of surplus vaccine with them. Today, the White House press secretary Jen Psaki admitted that there were countries had been asking the U.S. for that extra supply. But until Americans were fully vaccinated, she said, they have not been sharing anything so far.
So let's pick up on that. Nick, let's look globally. Tell us what the world leaders announced today.
Today was the first leaders summit of the Quad. President Biden on one side of the room, prime ministers of Japan, India, and Australia on big screens. And their main announcement, a coordinated investment to make 1 billion additional vaccines by next year. Those vaccines will be manufactured in India, which is already a leading manufacturer, and they will be paid for by the US and Japan, and they will use Australian logistics to distribute those vaccines. And that will help accelerate what every global health expert says, and Dr. Tedros, the Director General of the World Health Organization, repeated today, and that is the pandemic will not be over until everyone everywhere is vaccinated.
We're all interdependent, and no country can simply vaccinate its way out of this pandemic. We cannot end the pandemic anywhere unless we end it everywhere.
Another step to accomplish that goal, Judy, William mentioned that the White House finally admitted today it had blocked requests to export vaccines. U.S. officials tell me that they will begin to export vaccines this summer after the entire United States is vaccinated, not only because the administration has purchased more vaccines, but also the Trump administration's Warp Speed program increased the manufacturing capacity inside the United States. Now, I talked to a senior official close to the COVAX vaccine group earlier today, and he said that this kind of high income country investment in vaccine distribution and development is the only way this pandemic will end. But he said he was disappointed that the Biden team had declined these export requests. And he said the U.S. could have and should have done more. I talked to other humanitarian officials who urged Biden to go further, to push companies to give up intellectual property rights, and also to focus not only on Asia, but Africa.
And Nick, do we know where these vaccines announced today by these leaders are going to be distributed?
The Quad said that the vaccines were for the world, but the clear focus, according to senior U.S. and Quad officials I spoke to today, is the Indo-Pacific. That is from India to the Pacific Ocean. And the hub for production will be India, which is already exporting millions of vaccines, as India's ambassador to Washington, Taranjeet Singh Sandhu, told me earlier today.
India has already opened its door. Many have called India a pharmacy of the world. And we have believed in sharing our capabilities. And you are again aware that India's robust private sector has been stepping in and expanding capacity to address this challenge.
Quad officials do not say this out loud, but independent experts point out that the context for this vaccine diplomacy, Judy, is countering Beijing. Southeast Asia is where Beijing has focused its vaccine diplomacy efforts. And 1 billion vaccines, they point out, is enough to achieve herd immunity for the entire region. And the Biden administration, according to the experts I talked to, trying to send a message to Beijing, not only with today, but also these trips coming up, Judy, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State going not only to East Asia next week, but also to India.
Such important reporting. Nick Schifrin, William Brangham, thank you both.